Here we go. Hi, everyone. Very sad news today. The passing of a friend, the passing of another musician, producer, slash artist in the metal community. And I'm just going to do a couple of posts here so everybody knows that we are on. Very sad day indeed. I was actually kind of thrown off on this. Big time. I was actually scheduling another interview this morning, and my apologies to Mark Brody, Jag Panzer. We're supposed to do this, but I had to delay it because I think if I think Chris would have liked this. I got to be friends with the guy in the past year, I guess. We were working on the Steve Grimmett All Star production. Hey Tom, how's the audio, by the way? Can you hear me? I think you can hear me. We were working on the Steve Grimmett All Star production, the songs. He has all the files, by the way, or he had all files. And going back and forth, we did a couple interviews. We've been speaking all year together, and became friends. And you become friends when you speak to each other all year round, and it's just completely shocking. We share the same sort of heritage. He's Greek. He's from Cyprus, but he's Greek, and I'm Greek. Even though I'm from Canada. So we had that commonality, you want to call it. But let's just talk about what he's done. A tribute to him today. The music that he's produced. I mean, he was also, a musician, right? I'm gonna also play some clips. So, I have a lot of video footage of him. We did a show with him, and there was a lot of video footage I didn't show, and I thought it'd be cool to show it. So, let's begin with Chris Tsangarides talking about his health and Steve Grimmett, his tragedy. This happened a year ago, and how the metal community, got together and helped one another. And they did in big time with when Chris was sick, when he had his, I think it was his, he's type 2, he was type 2 diabetic, and he had a heart condition, I believe. I think it was a coma. I just can't remember the story, but it's there. And he understood what it was like to get all this support, and he was right when he was asked to help out with Steve Grimmett, boom, he was there. And he was the one who was supposed to put together all the artist tracks and the songs, and I don't know where that's going to stand, but here's a piece so you guys can hear a little bit about Chris. And I got more of this, but I don't want to show it all now. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Chris Tsangarides, not Jag Panzer. Okay, here we go.
We've been in talks, Steve and I, over the past year about making the new Grim Reaper album. And this certainly isn't the way that any of us predicted that we'd get to meet up, I dare say, in this awful circumstance. All I can say is that I cannot believe how stoic he's been given what's happened to him. I mean, it's just, I know because I was in a similar position when I was in my coma a few years ago. Apparently, my leg was going cold, and there was fears that they'd have to cut my leg off because of thrombosis due to the machines that they had me plumbed into, and that wouldn't have been happening. Thing is, I have the same illness as Steve as well. I'm diabetic, insulin, all that, and I really feel for what's happened to him. And as soon as I heard what had gone down, it was like, I just can't believe this. How quickly, you've got a pain in your foot, and then the next thing you know, it's gone the way it has. Um, and I was really, I mean, as soon as it happened and he was in hospital, I knew that something had to be done because you can't, in a foreign country on your own, especially when the rest of the band had to be flown back home. His wife wasn't there yet. To be all on your own like that in that dire circumstance, really, I mean, it got to everybody, and I am so proud of the metal community, for want of a better word, for jumping in straight ahead. Right, how can we make some money for this situation? And that's what we're doing. And I want Steve to know that this has all been done out of respect, love, whatever you want to say, for our fellow um, musician, warrior, metalhead, lunatic, whatever, and off we go. I've had the drum tracks sent, and a couple of guitars that Glenn Drover's done, and just waiting for the rest of the stuff to come so I can compile it and mix it down.
And there you go. That was that was the show that we did, and you could see that me and Alan were there, and that was him talking about Steve Grimmett. So I'm going to read to you what happened. Okay, so Anastasia Tsangarides, his daughter. This is the statement that she posted. It is with complete and utter sadness that I need to tell you that our beloved father and my mom's best friend, Chris Tsangarides, passed away peacefully last night after another brave battle with pneumonia, as well as heart failure. We really are appreciating your messages of love and kindness, but we are struggling to reply to them with all our love and thanks from all of us. And, the messages are just basically pouring in. Um, you know, um, if you have some comments that you want to say, I will read them, in honor of Chris, a tribute to Chris. And again, I told you, we became friends over the past year. We're calling each other back and forth, talking about this Reaper project. And we became friends over time, again, because of our heritage that was similar. And he was a sweet, kind man. And as you can see in that clip that I just played, he, went all out. He when someone needed help, he was there for that person. Landon, Anthony, what a great loss of genuine, sorry, Anthony, what a great loss of genius to the metal world and the world in general. Sabu, what horrible news. Rest in peace, Chris. I'm glad I got to meet you. So, send in your requests. Send in your comments. What you remember, the albums he, produced. Here's another clip. So we're going to talk about, Lips, Anvil, Metal on Metal. He produced this album with, and Monks, many, many more. So here we go. I'm going to cue this up. This is Chris talking about, the making of, the meeting of the Anvil guys.
Classic.
Here it comes. You ready? Here we go. I think this is a cool treat for everybody who, really appreciates Chris Tsangarides, the production of Anvil, Metal on Metal, which is probably one of my favorite Anvil albums. Here we go. You ready for this? Here we go. Here we go.
Album, any thoughts of meeting the guys for the first time?
Well, I mean, it was quite the meeting. I turned up. It was January, January, in Toronto, freaking cold, snow, whatever. And they turned up to meet me at the airport with their leather jackets and t-shirts. It was like, okay, whatever. I've got God knows what I was wearing, but I wasn't going to get cold. But straight from the get-go, it was like obvious we're all the same blooming thing. Music. They were up for trying any weird and wonderful suggestion I had. And that's kind of how we did it. We ended up doing the guitars in a corridor that was outside of the studio of phase one. It was some office building next door. And there was an interconnecting door with this massive, great big, it must have been 100-foot long, this corridor, possibly about 6 feet wide, and glass all the way down it. and we put his amps on one end and put microphones the other end. But we had to do it after 6 o'clock when they'd all gone home. Sort of sneak in and set up this stuff. And luckily, there wasn't anybody ever doing overtime in that place, because they would have got a bit of a shock with lips cranking them up. But that's kind of, it got the sound there, and nothing much had changed. We went back to phase one, I think it was 2011, something like that, or 10, for re-records of the original material for the soundtrack album of the film.
Yes,
Yeah, we had to redo them because, long story, the people that owned the rights to them wouldn't release them for the movie after they saw how well it was doing. They wanted huge amounts of money for the use of. So we said, you know what, let's go redo them and screw them. And that's what we did. And it was quite interesting to see, because the studio was exactly the same, except the desk had grown twice the size. I'm going, this wasn't this big when we were, I'm sure, or maybe we were kind of smaller and now we've grown bigger. No, it was, they bought another one and stuck it together. So it was pretty cool. But it really did bring back memories to see that place there like that. But unfortunately, no one was there from the old regime, so it was a little bit different, but nonetheless, it was cool.
Chris, did you think?
There you go, talking about recording metal on metal in, freezing their butts off in the studio. So there you have it. That's metal on metal. Let's go with some comments here, okay? Tom, he worked on some great albums that we were able to enjoy and had a hand in producing such great musical moments for us. Sad news, stunning. Captain Banana says, yes, the sad wings of destiny are sad indeed. Here we go. So let me read some more. I know a lot of people have a lot of comments here. I'm just going to look at all these. I got to look everywhere for these. Kenny, this guy also produced the heaviest albums of Priest. So sad about his passing. I know Neil sent me a message here. Let's find Neil's message. Sorry, this was all last second. I'm just trying to gather up all the information. David Reeves, he very sad about it. Shocking news from Tommy. Let's go back here. There's just, oh my God, the comments are coming here. Jason, one of the greatest behind the desk. Jason, so sorry, Jimmy K. What a loss. Way too young, man. He would produce some great material. Neil Hayward, rest in peace, Chris. Lars, rest in peace, Chris. Mario, he had good work on Anvil. Album Forged in Fire, yes, we forgot about that one. And with Jethro Tull, Stormwatch. Dylan, sad to hear he did some great work with Matt Mays and E-Torpedo, Terminal Romance, awesome album. I know that Neil sent me a message, I just can't find it right now. So, yeah, leave your comments. Oh, here it is. Neil Turbin, my sincere condolences to Chris, his family, and friends. You're in my thoughts and prayers. We were supposed to work together on the Steve Grimmett fundraising song. Yeah, Steve and Neil Turbin was part of that group that we were working on the fundraising song for Steve. But to say that with the star power, we managed still to get a lot of donations for Steve, even though that song was on hold. Herman, the man behind Painkiller and Thunder and Lightning and a lot more. So let's get to it. Let's get to Judas Priest Painkiller. I don't have the album in front of me. I was scattering around looking for that album. I don't know where the hell it is. But Painkiller, what can you say about Painkiller? Most Judas Priest fans would put it either their top or their second or their top three Judas Priest albums. And Chris had his hand in that. And let me get it queued up here for Painkiller. You guys will enjoy this. We got a lot on Painkiller, actually. Let me get it ready. Here we go. So, here's Chris Tsangarides talking about Painkiller. Here we go.
Well, it was going well. It was all good fun and frolics. I took them to they didn't want to record in the States, and they couldn't record in the UK for various reasons. So they wanted to go somewhere that was kind of close to home, but not obviously. So I knew a studio in the south of France called Miraval, which was owned by the jazz pianist Jacques Lussier. And I'd been there before recording Rock Goddess there and Lords of the New Church. Loved the place. It was the most amazing buildings. Had its own vineyard and its own wine, so that was a good enough reason anyway. But south of France, in Provence, fantastic. And yeah, they liked the idea of that, so we hoofed up there and we were all staying. It was like a hamlet. There were various buildings around the estate. It's now belongs to Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. Become their French connection, if you like. Which is a bit more as a pity, but it was a fantastic studio, and the people were really nice, and the food was even better, and the wine was even better than that. And we, oh my goodness me, the laughs that were had on that record, because they've always been a bit quick with the old prank, and what we'd get up to at Morgan Studios when we were doing Sad Wings of Destiny was no one's business, chucking food off the roof at unsuspecting people walking by on their way home, and suddenly this great big curry would land on their heads, which was very funny to us. Not really, but I mean, for goodness sake. But apart from chucking food at people, the studio in France was just amazing. If you'd seen it, it was the history goes back to Knights Templar, and in the producer gets to stay in the old chapel, and it's exactly what it is, an old chapel with rooms to the side of it, and that's right next to this Saracen burial yard with all manner of ghosties and spooks walking about. Apparently, not that I ever saw any, but all that kind of, I don't know, nights and things is a bit metal, isn't it? And it would be, come on, lads, time to be metal. And right, okie dokie, so in we'd go and be metal. And it don't get any more metal than that, is my opinion. And it was blooming marvellous. 9 weeks we were there, absolutely wonderful. I don't remember a single argument.
You're in the studio with Rob now.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the vocal lines, and probably is the most head voice falsetto that he used probably in any of the Priest catalog. Whose idea was that, to really go that high?
Well, it's him. That's how he does it, and egged on by yours truly here, because in the song Painkiller, where he's singing pain, pain, killer, killer, when it's getting all intense, the production note to Rob was, can you sound like a Dalek from the Doctor Who series? Exterminate, exterminate, and they used to just get more and more intense till they blew up. And he went, I get you, and that was exactly what he did.
And did you sense, and again I asked this question before, did you sense him not being happy in the band?
No, they were very happy. It was all there.
I mean, he left after Painkiller. There must have been.
Well, he left after Painkiller. I don't know why. Well, I do. He wanted to go down the Pantera route. He was saying we should sound more like Pantera, and I'm saying, well, they're trying to sound like you. What's the matter with you? Because that's what happens. The artists get to wherever they are, and they listen to some new, fresh whatever, and it's like, oh, it sounds, I don't know, heavier. What are you going to say? It sounds different to them, and they want to be like that because they think that's the happening thing. So they don't realise that they are them. They could fart on a blooming down a microphone and put a drum beat to it, and it'd still get bought, and people would try to copy. I said, you are Judas Priest, and Judas Priest do whatever they do. You don't want to be Judas Priest sings Pantera, for goodness sake, or anybody else, be yourselves, do your thing. We're fine, you know. And I mean, I wasn't around to see, you know, the nonsense when he left. You know, I heard about it through, you know, various channels. But when I met when I met up with Glenn a few years later to, you know, write some tunes with him on the Demolition record, you know, the things I heard from his side were pretty horrendous. But, you know, they were, you know, in a band that had been going for so long, established itself together. That unit was as strong as it could be. Individually, both suffered. You know, as far as sales and everything else, nobody wanted to see the amount of people that were there didn't warrant the stature of where they had achieved. They were going downhill rapidly, both of them, no matter what they'd sold. When they got back together again, it was like, there you see, there you go. That's what we want to see.
So that's Chris Tsangarides talking about the whole Painkiller era, recording, aftermath, post. Very cool. It's cool for me to watch it. It was a year ago, and again, you know, we became good friends after that interview. You know, a lot of times when you're setting up interviews and you're doing it Skype and you're talking, and as you're setting up and you just, you know, start talking about other things and your families, and, you know, he talked about, you know, him being type 2 diabetic, you know, which led to him like having a lot of issues and problems. Led to him going into a coma, you know, years back, in the metal community, you know, not cheering him on, but supporting him. And yeah, you know, you get to be friends. And to me, I'm like extremely saddened, and I don't want people to think this is like a sensational thing, but I want to pay tribute to the guy who's brought us, you know, just so much music. And I think Chris would really dig this. Chris was a very happy person. He loved music. He was always there to help people, and he's a pretty cool dude, man. Let me read some comments here. All right. Another Canadian connection, the Tragically Hip, fully, completely. So there's a story behind the Tragically Hip, and I'll get to that soon. And that's a shout out to Canada when I do. Who else we got? We got Admilson, Artillery by Inheritance. I think he produced that. I'm not sure if he did or not. But if he did, that's an incredible album by Artillery. Impellitteri, my good friend Billy. Angra, Fireworks was another great album he produced. Yes, another great album. Oh God, very sad. Rest in peace, Chris. That's from Admilson. Yo, I knew his name from the album Slayer Raider. What do you know about rock and roll? Great sound. Sorry to hear he passed away. Thanks for the live stream. No problem. Let's see what else we got. Of course, Thin Lizzy's Renegade, and we'll get to that piece in a bit. Looking for some more comments. And again, this was like a last-minute stream. As you could see, it was supposed to be Jag Panzer today. But I'm wearing my Anvil shirt in support of it all. I know Brave Words is going to be doing a piece on Chris Tsangarides. You might want to check that out very soon. Let me look and see what else we have. Let me refresh the screen here. And sorry if I'm going back and forth. It's just, you know, I'm all by myself. I'm doing sort of the mechanics of it all, doing the live stream. And this is for everybody to leave comments and, you know, what albums they loved. I want to go through a list after and some really cool albums. Let's talk about King Diamond, Conspiracy. Do I have it here? So I have them in Conspiracy. There he is. There's Mr. Probably the worst King Diamond album cover ever. But nevertheless, this King Diamond, Conspiracy has to be the best album by King Diamond, at least in my opinion. And I've said this before. Big thanks to Chris Tsangarides for, you know, sort of like developing the band and making that sound just that more epic. Incredible songs. I don't think there's a bad track on Conspiracy. I don't know if I could take it out, but Chris Tsangarides, another fantastic job, and it's important to point that out. Ivranzo says Conspiracy, album guitar solos by Kiss. I don't know, I guess. And Panayoti says, a great Greek. I agree. Jackin is saying, rock in peace, talented producer, and there seems like a very nice guy, and he was. Let's take a look at some more comments. A lot of RIPs, 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 rest in peace. Let's refresh some more screens here. Joe Canglosio, I can't pronounce your last name, Joe. Unreal, my condolences. Who else we got? Greg Walls. So sorry. Great loss. What else do we have here going on? That's pretty much it. In terms of albums, I wanted to share some, if I can find it, the albums that he's done. Okay? Here we are. Let's share some albums that he's done. Backwaxed. Anvil. So this is either he produced or engineered. Okay? So Backwax. Anvil. I'm just looking at some. King Diamond Conspiracy. We've already said this. The Eternal Idol. The Eternal Idol. Black Sabbath. Now, I think it was a shared production on that, but yeah, great album. People love that. Forged in Fire, of course, by Anvil. Tragic Lip, we'll get to that in a bit. And here's a little cameo appearance by Metal John. Here he comes.
Oh,
Here he comes. Here he comes.
Metal voice.
What else we got? We got Bruce Dickinson, Tattooed Millionaire, which we should have spoke about, and I think I might have spoken to him, but it wasn't in that show. Bruce Dickinson, Tattooed Millionaire. You know, that's probably one of, again, it was a great album by Bruce. And Thin Lizzy, Renegade. And I have a piece on that, and I'm going to play you that. Thin Lizzy, Renegade. Let me just cue it up. At 16:05. 16:05. You ready for this? Here we go. This is his production of Thin Lizzy, Renegade. You ready? Here it comes.
Sure. Well, that was I'd not long done Gary Moore's solo stuff, and that's where I met Phil Lynott, and because I also was working backwards and forwards, sometimes on the sessions that we had with Gary, sometimes we'd be working on Phil's solo albums, Fanatical Fascist, that's the a song, Solo in Soho was his, the first one. And the next one was Fatalistic Attitudes. There's a mouthful. And I got to record the two tunes that he'd written for his daughters, the song Sarah, that was on the Black Rose album. But it started out life as a solo record, and it's Mark Nassif playing the drums, and it's Huey Lewis from Huey Lewis and the News playing the harmonicas on there. And I was so baffled that next thing you know, it comes out on the Black Rose record. There's a Thin Lizzy song. But so there was lots of intertwining. You didn't know one day what you were doing, where it would end up. They were just recording stuff. And then come to Renegade, and they'd recorded a few tracks, but I was asked because he'd lost his way, if you like. He was, just didn't know, the directions were just all over the place, and he needed somebody to focus him and get the stuff going. And that's what I did. I came in and recorded from scratch Angel of Death. Funny that all the heavy shit I get to do, yes. And Pressure Will Blow, and the song Renegade itself. And it came out. They went on tour. They had Snowy in the band, and it wasn't quite doing it. And he asked me honestly to give my opinion, what I thought of the band as it was, but after we'd seen some video footage of them doing the Dominion Theatre in London with Snowy, that lineup, the Renegade lineup. And I said to him, I love Snowy. I think he's a brilliant guitar player, but he doesn't look like he wants to be there. And he agreed. And do you know anybody? And unfortunately, I did. And enter Mr. Sykes. And that carried on. We went over to where was it? Ireland. That's right. The first time we did a single for John Sykes called
Baby, please don't go.
That's the one. Short-term memory, I tell you, is appalling. Yeah, and we did that, and he got to see who he was and what he was, and there you go, natural step to get him in, and he was in the lineup that did the Thunder and Lightning record. But the Renegade album now, to me, I think is brilliant. The songs on there are just superb. There's just something about it, and it's one of those things that, you know, it was neither, a specific genre. It wasn't kind of, the songs were all manner of tunes. It didn't matter, and that's where some of it I think was intended for solo work, and some was Lizzy, and it just got all a bit confused. But by the time we did Thunder and Lightning, that became focused. I mean, we were in a studio, and I said to them, why are we, when we were doing Thunder and Lightning, we'd done a few songs, and where's the rest of the material? Oh, we need to write some. And I said, well, why are we sitting in here paying like $2,000 a day when we go to a rehearsal place? And Phil thought that was absolutely genius.
Let's go to the next one, Tragically Hip. Okay, so Tragically Hip is next on track. Gonna read some more comments, and this is from Bart Gabriel, who you probably know, producer, promoter, manager, Crystal Viper, and others. Bart, who I know knew him, and I know Bart. I guess we've spoken here and there. Bart Gabriel, but you know what? There are actual many words to say. Oh wait, let's let Metal John pass by here first. Let it quiet down. He's coming by. Here he comes.
Stay holy.
All right, there we go. All right. So there are actual many words to say. CT, as he was often called by his friends, was my Jedi master. I really used to call him that, and I think he liked it. I could see him liking that. And he's got some more comments he wants to share, and I thought they were pretty cool. He always had time for me, and many times I was surprised that he had no problem with shaking his knowledge and his studio secrets with me. I loved his stories, how he worked with a Judas Priest. Same here. Gary Moore, Thin Lizzy, Black Sabbath. Hey, CT, I just placed a guitar pick on my forehead. Again, Bart Gabriel. He had huge, maybe even biggest influence on my work ethic and attitude when it comes to producing and working with bands. Sabu, Y&T Mean Street was another great album Chris did. Bart again, many times I was catching myself that when he was hard or unexpected situation in the studio, I was thinking, what would Chris do? Bruno, Ian Gillan, Toolbox. Yes, that's another one. It's a really good album, very heavy, very underrated for me. One of the best 90s albums. Bart again, I am where I am because of you. Your legacy will live forever. Goodbye, my friend. I love you. Cayman, writer for the Metal Voice. You all know Cayman. Very astute. One time Chris told me how he had tried to tell Halloween how they didn't have the songs for Pink Bubbles Go Ape. But they didn't listen to him. He had a good laugh about it. Ale, rest in peace, CT. And yeah, that was his nickname, CT, because Chris Tsangarides, we all had trouble spelling like my real last name. Imperitali, am I pronouncing it right this time? Thunder and Lightning, my favorites from Thin Lizzy. K-Man, Chris was a real pioneer, and for heavy metal, and it was something he was proud of, and that's rare in metal. Always like that. That's true. Bart, guitar pick on my forehead. That's an inside joke. If I have a guitar pick, I do have a guitar pick. This is for Bart. Here we go. Is that good? That's for CT. Bart, inside joke. And hopefully it doesn't stick all day long. All right, we're moving on. Billy. Nope, but better. I don't know, I have a problem pronouncing impellitary. You like that, Bart? Did you like that with the pick? That's for CT. You would have laughed at that. By the way, this interview that I'm playing, that's just the condensed version. I got more, and maybe I'll release it later on. Let's see if there's some more comments before I move to the next clip. I hope everybody's enjoying this trip down memory lane with Chris, or as we like to call him, CT. Bart, CT gave guitar picks to Tony Iommi. CT gave guitar pick to Tony Iommi. So your guitar pick, or was it Tony Iommi's guitar pick to you? Don't know. Please advise. All right, let's look at these comments, see if there's any more. I'll read them out, okay? This is going from all the different areas here on the Metal Voice Facebook page, if you want to take a look at that. And my apologies if I'm turning back and forth. It's just I'm doing everything here, right? I'm kind of like managing this whole thing, and I'm trying to talk at the same time, and sometimes it's not easy when you don't have color commentary. Okay, here we go. I'm using like 2 computers at the same time. So here we go. Anything else? A lot are rest in pieces, and I'm just going to acknowledge these. Rest in peace, rest in peace, rest in peace. One of the greatest behind the desk. We read that. Yvonne. Hi, Jimmy. Sorry, Jimmy K. For us, he was a great producer, but for you, he was a friend. I'm sorry. Big hug far away. That's from Mexico, I guess. Tom, stunning, so sad. Seems like a gentleman. So many great albums he worked on. And there's more coming in. It's just trying to find everything. Let's just see. Let's just refresh some screens here. And I'm going to go to the next clip, by the way, which I found pretty interesting as a Canadian. Okay. Of course, Medivh. She's just sort of reposting that. Great. So let's go to the next clip as I look for more, because it's kind of complicated doing both things at the same time. Talking, looking, reading, and remembering Chris Tsangarides, who passed away. Either was last night or tonight by heart failure due to pneumonia. And again, he was a type 2 diabetic. Queuing up the next one. This is the Tragically Hip. Now, for those of you metalheads probably don't know this, but us Canadians, we do. Tragically Hip, probably one of the biggest albums by one of the biggest bands. And unfortunately, Gord Downey, he died of brain cancer recently. Very sad. We actually spoke about that as well. This album in Canada went diamond. So it's something like, in Canada, diamonds, I think, it's either 500,000 or 1 million copies, because we're a smaller population. We're like 33 million. So it sold something like 1 million copies. It went diamond. Chris, because he lives, or he was actually born in the UK, or he lived in the UK, citizen of the UK, did not receive. So we have like the Grammy Awards in Canada called the Junos. The band received the Juno, I believe, for this, or a platinum car, whatever it was. He did not. So I guess he'll explain it, because I probably forgot the story. But he did not get recognized by Canada for the Tragically Hip's Fully Completely, which went diamond. If you know, gold, platinum, diamond. All right. So here we go. Queuing this up. Stay tuned. There'll be more. We're going to 2050. Let's go to the Tragically Hip. Here we go. Good story. I like this. Enjoy. Canada. In Canada, Gord Downey diagnosed with a brain tumor.
I know.
Sad, very sad news.
Very sad news.
You produced probably one of the biggest albums, fully completely by the Tragically Hip. So
Yes, I did.
for non-Canadians, it's a non-issue, but for Canadians, it's sort of like snow. I mean, it's just Tragically Hip and snow and maple syrup. I mean, it's just Canadian. So, I mean, quickly about your experience, and maybe some thoughts on what Gordy's going through today.
I absolutely love the guys. I was asked to do this record, and it was on the strength of them liking Concrete Blonde and Lizzy and whoever else that I had done. And they brought me over to Toronto, put on a gig in a club, and specifically for me to see them. Now, clubs in Toronto and clubs in England are a bit different. Like, Canadian was about 50 times the size. So it was a sizable crowd in this place. And there they were on this stage, little gear. They're going, okay, off you go, lads. And off they went. And my goodness me, by the end of it, I was just like, whoa. The intensity, the feeling that they were portraying, it was just brilliant. I thought, yeah, we're doing it. Come on, off you go. And brought them back to London and went into Battery Studios. And it was only 6 weeks to mix it, not mix it, record it. Then they went home and left me to mix. And the A&R guy was a chap called Bruce Dickinson, but not that one, from New York. And he came over to listen to the tracks. And I played him the first one. And he went, "Oh man, that was fantastic." He said, "Can I hear it on the small speakers?" And I looked at him like, "That was the small speakers. What do you mean?" "No, it wasn't, was it?" I said, "No, this is the big ones." Turned it on to them, blew his wig off. No, let's go eat. That was it. End of A&R meeting. He loved it, and it was because the tunes were, I don't know, they happened on some really good, the feeling of the nation, if you like. The songs that they had written struck a note with everybody, and it just sold and sold and sold. And what's more, I'm really peed off with the Canadians because I never got a Juno
because I wasn't Canadian.
Oh,
Can you believe that?
Me and Al are going to file a complaint right after this show.
Check this out. And also,
shame on Canada.
Matt Langer never got one for doing Bryan Adams' album either because he wasn't Canadian. And I thought, what? Can you imagine, the Grammys, you can't get one because you're not American. So it really baffled me, that did. Couldn't understand, but never mind, because it just sold and sold and sold and sold and keeps doing it, and to have a Diamond Award is something, just blew my mind. I'd heard of them, but I'd never seen one, and one with my blooming name on it, and spelled correctly. How about that? That's even more. Yeah, but I mean, they were, it was just amazing, and it was great fun working with those guys. It was funny because it was the days of the video, and because they were on MCA, which happened to be Universal, the office in London had all their films on videotape, so we got just everything sent down to the studio, and we're just watching all these movies all the time. I can't remember when we actually recorded the blooming thing, but we must have done. Somebody did,
Any projects you're working on now, or any bands that are exciting you these days?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm in the middle. I suppose it's the middle. Yeah, I finished the vocals of the UFO record, the covers album coming out. But I'm also today I'm working with a band from Norway called Hex AD, which is pretty blooming heavy duty music, I'll tell you. But it's great. It's not what would you call it? It's incredibly musical, but it's like, I don't know, Black Sabbath at half speed,
So we're back. That was Chris Tsangarides talking about the Tragically Hip, the Canadian band, and Gord Downey, who actually at the time when we did this interview was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, and since then he has passed away. And sadly enough, Chris Tsangarides has passed away at age 61. Another band that I'm really a big fan of was Concrete Blonde, and more of the alternative rock band, and more popular probably in the late 80s and the 90s, who is good friends with the lead singer, and she's somewhere out in the desert, and I'm sure when she finds out the news, she'll be very much upset and sad. K-Man says, Chris is a major highlight in the Anvil documentary. Yes, he was. So if you guys want to check out Chris, recording This Is 13 with Anvil, yes, definitely a highlight. Bart Gabriel again, you know, let's see what he says here. Bart Gabriel, Tony looked at Chris, Tony Iommi, looked at Chris Tsangarides, and asked him, what do you want me to do with that pick? The guitar pick, like I just did. And he said, just stick it on your head. Where's my guitar pick? I don't know. I lost it. Okay. K-Man. Let's go back to K-Man. He's like throwing out all kinds of opinions here. Judas Priest Painkiller is as hailed and well loved, liked it because of Chris Tsangarides. A Touch of Evil. Actually, I was listening to this song before I even found out that Chris Tsangarides died. And and I think he even wrote, you know, part of that song and plays on that song. And incredible song. It's probably one of the greatest songs. Judas Priest has got that keyboard touch on it. It's just a well-made, produced, written, sung. Everything about that song is absolutely killer. Again, 61 years old, dies from pneumonia or heart failure when you had pneumonia. K-Man, did you think CT would ever be posthumously given his Juno? I don't know. Canadians, what can you say? We're so nice, but yet we're so mean. I don't know. Going back to some tweets here. Let's go back and let's just see what's going on. So here's Rudy Sarzo. Of course, Rudy Sarzo, Quiet Riot, Whitesnake, and all the other bands he's in. He tweeted after he found out about this, and it's all basically I think it's on Brave Words and Blabbermouth. I'm saddened by the news of the outstanding producer and dear friend Chris Tsangarides passing. My thoughts and prayers to his wife Jane and family. Let's quickly look at. I'm going to look at some last comments here. What else we got? Again, and the problem is in North America, in the LA, you know, it's probably like 9 o'clock in the morning there, so they probably still haven't found out about the news. North America, it's like, you know, on Eastern Standard Time, it's 12. So, you know, people are just starting to find us out as we speak. And let me just go and look at some more comments here. It's like a lot of stuff happening. Getting sent a lot of stuff here. Okay. What else we got? Well, I think that pretty much says it all. That's his interview. I'll probably post some more stuff. I'm going to look for some stuff with Chris that I have. I'm going to look at our last message together. Let's see. We were basically working on the Steve Grimmett, all-star project that a lot of people were waiting for anxiously. A lot of the artists have done their parts, and I sent them off to Chris. We were going back and forth for like about a year, and it's sad news because those files are there, and Chris has got them arranged. He's got them archived, and I don't have all the files now. But that's neither here nor there. A good friend, well, I won't say a good friend, but a good friend over the past year, a very nice man, Chris Tsangarides. Rest in peace. The metal community has lost a great one. Thank you, everybody, for, maybe I'll read some last comments here if you guys want to throw them out there. But I really enjoyed this, by the way. I really enjoyed going down memory lane, and I'm happy we did the interview together because it brings back a lot of fun memories. And there's more. I got more stuff. It's just I need to look through it and queue it up. I only had time to queue this much. Okay, man. We'll leave it with his last words. What a truly lovely man. Thank you so much for these great interviews, Jimmy. A powerful tribute. Thank you. Thank everybody else for tuning in. And we'll see you next time on The Metal Voice.